there, Natalie with you today with a new process video for Pinkfresh Studio, and today I want to show you a fun layout using a mix of the two collections. I'm going to use Life Right Now and Happy Heart to create kind of a rainbowy look for this design. So I'm starting by just first of all pulling out all the scraps of paper that I have ready, and I'm going to use the Layer Sunburst stencil set for my background. Now I want to add kind of like this idea of a sunburst behind some pictures. I'm gonna encase my pictures inside chipboard frames, so I'm just kind of setting where everything is gonna sit. I know the bulk of my layout is gonna sit on the top right corner of the page. I am using for my background Vicky Boots in foundation paper. I want something really sturdy that was gonna make the ink blending really nice, like, you know, go smooth. This is like really smooth cardstock, so the ink blends nicely on the background. So I'm setting my stencil, like I said before, everything is gonna sit on the top right corner of my layout. I'm gonna hold it with a little bit of washi tape, and what I'm doing is blocking each one of the triangles that make up the sunburst, and I put colors of ink that are gonna give me a vibrant but kind of pastel background. So my idea is I want to use or color each section of the sunburst with a different color of ink, kind of creating a clockwise rotation of color that are gonna change as they move towards the right. So I'm starting with Lemon Whip, and you're gonna see that I'm getting my ink blending brush. I'm gonna keep a lot of pressure towards the center of it and kind of lightly diffuse it towards the edge of the stencil. I'm gonna be careful not to hit the edge of the stencil. I don't want to have that perimeter. I just want to have that soft kind of ray coming up. Once I have my little triangle section, I'm gonna like go ahead and mask the next triangle. I'm gonna be careful because I don't want to have cross contamination of the colors. I want to have those defined lines that create a sunburst effect. So I'm gonna continue working the colors, like I said, starting with the yellow at the top left corner of the stencil, and then I'm lightly gonna move clockwise to come back to the yellow. So I am using Lemon Whip. I'm gonna use Coral Reef, Peach Fuzz for the next one, but it was too light, so I'm gonna bring a little bit of apricot just to deepen the orange. Then I'm gonna move to Coral Reef. Then I'm gonna go into the pinks, what I'm gonna use Ballet Slipper. I'm gonna bring a little bit of Pink Diamond after that. I'm gonna go into the purples with Lilac, and then I'm gonna use into Slumber, which is that kind of bluish purplish. I'm gonna go into Sky Blue. Then I'm gonna move on to Ocean Breeze. I'm gonna go into Mint, and I'm gonna finish with Fresh Pear. Now if you think about it, like I said, I am adding the colors. I'm masking each one of the triangles and adding the colors starting on the top left corner, and then I'm just gonna rotate it clockwise, and you're gonna see how the colors are gonna change, giving me this rainbow effect on the background. And I'm being very careful to mask each triangle, just because I want to make sure that I don't have cross contamination. Now one thing is, this stencil was created for an A2 card, so that means that it's gonna give me this small rectangle. I need to elongate that look. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna bring two pieces of cardstock, and you're gonna see me right now. I'm gonna use the lines that were defined by the stencil to create, I'm gonna say like a second. I'm gonna cheat the stencil, and I'm just gonna place the cardstock following the lines. I'm gonna hold it with some masking tape. In this case I'm using washi tape, and all I'm gonna do is just using the same colors, I'm gonna elongate, I'm gonna stretch the color of the application, so kind of elongating those triangles. And that's what I said, I went darker towards the center of the triangle, the vertices that meets in the center, and then I just kind of diffuse it towards the outside, and I was very careful not to hit the edges of the stencil, so that it makes it really easier for me to just diffuse the color and elongate the triangle. So this is an easy way to cheat the stencil when you have a small version, especially in a linear stencil that meets at the center. You just need some cardstock, and then you can just stretch it. If you don't have the stencil, and I'm using again the Layer Sunburst A2 card stencil, and it's a set, you can easily use some cardstock and just draw, create a center point and use the cardstock just to guide you towards creating the sunburst effect. And I'm gonna repeat the same way that I did before, just to create that beautiful rainbow. Once I have that, you're gonna see that I'm actually I'm not gonna show you all of it because my head was on the way and I realized it's hard to cut it out of the way. Is once I had all those lines ready, I wanted to create a little bit of a bleached effect. Even though I love the fact that you see the, like, you know, those beautiful straight lines of color, I want to bleach it a little bit. I don't want it to be so perfect. So what I'm gonna do once I'm finished with all the color is I'm gonna bring a little bit of water, and that's one of the reasons why I am using like a little bit of a heavier cardstock, because I'm gonna add some water onto it to bleach out the effect. The beauty of working with the inks is that they're very reactive to water. So you're gonna see that I'm bringing just one of my ink bottle, my water bottle sprays, and I'm just gonna literally splatter some water onto the Sunburst. And what the ink is gonna do is kind of dilute around the ring that the water creates on the paper. So once I have all the water in all the spots, I'm gonna come in with a piece of paper towel and just soak up the excess of water. So that's gonna create that bleached effect. So you're gonna see that I'm just applying. I have my piece of paper towel next to me, and I'm just literally just blotting up the excess. I want the water to kind of eat away the ink and give me that bleached effect. Now once I have that, and I love it, I'm actually gonna come in with a bit of white ink. I wanna tone down a little bit. I want to make it a little bit more distressed looking. The ink that I'm using is from Mountain Dew, but if you don't have the ink, you can dilute a little bit of wet acrylic paint of Yeso, and then you just act the same way. I just had it at like handy, so I just went ahead and put it in. Again, I'm just gonna sprinkle it all over my Sunburst, and I'm gonna set it aside to dry. Now here, I love the lines, but I want to define them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a ruler. I'm using a gel pen, a really fine gold gel pen, and all I'm going to do is draw the lines that create that triangle. Just the two lines that go from the center, like on outwards. Think of it as creating my Sunburst. So I did that, and like I said, I delete some of it because my head was on the shell most of the way. While my background is drying all the ink, I'm gonna go ahead and back the frames, the chipboard frames with the pictures. These are photos of my kids and our latest vacations to Ecuador, which is my little town is really picturesque. So we went for a walk, and that's pretty much what it looks like. There's rivers and it's beautiful. So we took the kids for a walk, and I took some photos, so I'm gonna use them here. So because I have all that background and I have the chipboard frames, I want to frame it, just because also I have most of my the bulk of my layout is on the top right corner of my layout. I want to find a way to frame it just to bring it more towards the center. So I'm gonna cut my background to 11.5 by 11.5, and then I'm cutting a frame out of this paper. This is from the Happy Heart collection, and I'm gonna link everything on the description so you know what I'm using. And all I'm gonna do is cut an inch wide frame out of it. I don't want to waste the inside of the paper, so I'm using my paper trimmer to just cut out a 10 by 10 square from the inside of the paper. So you're gonna see that my trick is I don't make sure that I don't hit all the I don't hit the ends of my square, so I'm able to please keep it without moving. That's the best way to describe it. So now I know that I need to bring interest to the bottom of the page just to balance my design. So I'm using an X-Acto knife to cut a little slit. I'm gonna say around 2 inches from the bottom on the left hand side of the layout. I'm gonna cut around a 1/2 inch slit there, and then I'm gonna fold the edges towards the inside of the layout. It's gonna create like this little triangle that kind of follows the same idea as the top of the page. So I'm just gonna set that aside for now, and then I'm gonna start working on my scraps. And you're gonna see that I have quite a bit of scraps from all the projects that I have created. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut, I'm gonna say between 1 inch to 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch strips of them, and I just went with colors that reflect what I have on the background. So I put papers from Happy Heart and also papers from Life Right Now, just because it has the same tones that I'm using, like peaches and like pretty much a rainbow. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut like little banners out of it. So I'm gonna make sure that I cut those little tails out of each of the edges of it. And I don't want like super long pieces. I don't want the pieces to go from edge to edge. I just want them to be around the same length as I have the Sunburst. So you're gonna see that now that I have them all ready to go, I'm just gonna start playing with the strips of paper. This took me a while. I just wanna make sure that I have a representation of all the colors and just kind of elongate the design. Right now everything is sitting on the right, on that top right corner. By having the paper strips, I'm just kind of elongating the design a little bit on the horizontal line. So I'm just playing with the paper, with the formation. The red is kind of really shocking, like, you know, it's a little bit darker than what I have on the background. So I'm gonna hide that little bit of that paper behind other layers. You're gonna see peaks of it. I'm gonna take advantage of the red to just create repetition on my page, but I don't want it to be the focus of the page. So I'm gonna try to camouflage it a bit behind some other papers. Same with the yellow. So I'm just, like I said, I'm playing with, I just went and cut strips from every paper that I knew that were closer to the tones that I have on the inks. Once I have them all in place, you're gonna see that I'm gonna go ahead and glue them in place, and then I'm gonna add my pictures. The frame that I used in the gray one comes from Happy Heart, and I love the fact that it takes 2 pictures. And then the teal one, kind of minty, comes from, backwards. The gray one comes from Life Right Now, my apologies, and the green one, kind of minty one, comes from Happy Heart. So I know that I want to have the gray kind of a little bit on this slant. I don't want it to be so straight, just because I want to follow some of those perpendicular lines that I have on the background. Not perpendicular, diagonal lines, my apologies on that. And then I'm gonna place my pictures kind of like, the gray one is gonna be kind of on the slant, while the green one is a bit more straight. They're not completely straight. Once I have that, I'm gonna glue my layout straight onto the background, and I am ready to embellish this layout because the bulk of it is ready. One of the things that I wanted to do was try to stay within you know, like a blocking of colors, thinking that I wanted to add embellishments that match the section or the color where they're gonna sit, because just gonna emphasize the sunburst effect and the colors that I have on the background. So I knew that I wanted to create that, like, you know, that trio of chipboard frames. My apologies on that, but I did not want to lose it on the background. I did not want to back it with any pattern paper. So what I did is I just cut around it, you know, around the plastic that is behind the chipboard sticker, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of foam adhesive behind it, and then glue it to the top right corner of that gray chipboard frame. Then I'm just gonna play with some of the Flair. I want those circular designs to just decorate my layout. I love the fact that it's very contrasting to all the lines. I pull out that Happy Days paper from the journaling ephemera from the Happy Heart collection. I am using stickers from the Happy Heart collection just to kind of back the space where I created that slit. And for my title, I'm actually gonna use a combination of the title ephemera. I'm gonna use some of the ephemera from the Happy Heart collection. I'm gonna use the Around Town, is actually from the Life Right Now collection, and I'm gonna bring the mini Puffy office stickers from Happy Heart to just complete my title. Gonna read Vacation Moments Around Town, because like I said, this is my little town in Ecuador. It's beautiful. It's not because my hometown is just one of the most beautiful places in Ecuador. So I'm just going to complete my title. I'm using one of the reasons that I pulled out the Puffy sticker is because it has all the colors that I have on the background, so I want to bring more of that rainbow look onto the bottom of my page. Now of course all my layouts need to finish with a little bit of what do you call it, glitz and glamour, and I tried to use different colors, and instead I went with the Glacier gems. I just wanted something very neutral that I can use in all the pages. So I glued them. I just scattered them around the Sunburst, and a little bit around the title, just to give the attention down there. And I know my lines of journal are gonna sit right underneath the title, and that's about it. I love how this turned out. Actually, this was fun to put together. So I had an idea that I had in mind, and I love how, like, you know, it came together. like I said, if you have a smaller stencil, in this case I had the layer Sunburst, and it's a bit smaller than what it will be necessary for this layout. I just show you the trick to extend it. As always, I'm adding all the materials that I use to the description of this video, so you can go ahead and check them in the Pinterest Studio shop. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, guys.